WWE Raw shocker, Roman Reigns' desperate phone call to Jon Moxley, the collapse of the Tribal Chief. Welcome back to Wrestling News CC, the place for the most jaw-dropping, mind-blowing moments in the world of WWE. Tonight, we're diving deep into a moment that has sent shockwaves across the entire WWE Universe. Monday Night Raw just delivered a revelation unlike any other, and it was all captured on camera, live for the world to see. Roman Reigns, the Tribal Chief, the man who has ruled over WWE for years, was seen in a vulnerable, desperate moment, something no one thought we'd ever witness. And it wasn't just any moment, it was a phone call that no one could have predicted. So, buckle up, because what we're about to reveal is not just shocking, it's monumental. Let's talk about Roman Reigns reaching out to none other than Jon Moxley, his former Shield brother and the man who walked away from WWE under explosive circumstances. This is a story of desperation, broken alliances, and the possible unraveling of the Tribal Chief's empire. The setting. We begin on Monday Night Raw, a night that promised drama and excitement as usual. Fans were tuning in, eager to see what Roman Reigns, the longest-reigning Universal Champion, had in store. But what happened next wasn't scripted. It wasn't part of any planned storyline. It was raw. It was real. And it was something that left fans in utter disbelief. Backstage cameras caught an intimate moment in Roman Reigns' locker room. This wasn't just the Tribal Chief we're accustomed to seeing, the powerful, unflinching leader of the bloodline. No, this was something different. Roman Reigns, alone in his locker room, pacing back and forth, clearly unsettled. His usual aura of invincibility was gone. This was a Roman we hadn't seen before, a Roman Reigns on the edge, searching for something. And then, the camera caught something that stopped the entire WWE Universe in its tracks. Roman Reigns, in his ring gear, sweat still dripping from his face, picked up his phone. A phone call. But not just any phone call. The name on the screen. Jon Moxley. That's right. Jon Moxley. The man who was once Roman's closest ally in the Shield, the unpredictable and untamed lunatic fringe, was on the other end of that line. It was a moment that no one saw coming, especially considering the rift that had existed between these two men ever since Moxley left WWE and reinvented himself in AEW. The phone call. Let's break this down, because this moment was much more than just a simple phone call. Roman Reigns, the man who has held the reins of WWE for so long, the man who commands respect and loyalty from every corner of the locker room, was now calling the one person who had distanced himself from WWE entirely, Jon Moxley. The camera lingered on Roman's face. Gone was the confidence, the stoic leader we're used to seeing. Instead, we saw frustration. We saw tension. We saw a man grappling with a sense of loss. The bloodline, once the most powerful faction in WWE, was beginning to crumble. Jimmy and Jey Uso were not the loyal brothers they once were. Paul Heyman, his trusted advisor, had been nothing more than a puppet in the last few months, offering advice that Roman no longer trusted. And in that moment, Roman was alone. He was standing in the ruins of his empire, desperate to find a lifeline. His phone call to Moxley was an act of vulnerability. For the first time, we saw the cracks in the foundation of Roman's character, his pride, his arrogance, his fear of losing control. We could hear the phone ring in the tense silence. The seconds felt like hours. And when Moxley finally answered, the moment was almost painful to watch. The man who had always been so confident, so in control, was now reduced to a mere shadow of himself. "Dean. It's Roman," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. There was no bravado. No authority. Just a man at his lowest, searching for something in his past that he could hold on to. The connection with Jon Moxley. For those of us who remember the Shield, this moment was even more poignant. Roman, Moxley, and Seth Rollins. The three of them, together, were a force to be reckoned with. The chemistry between the trio was undeniable. They were brothers in arms, united by their past, and built on a shared sense of loyalty. But that all changed when Moxley made the decision to leave WWE, to chart his own path, and to embrace the freedom that came with becoming Jon Moxley in AEW. Moxley's departure wasn't just a blow to WWE, it was a symbolic fracture in the brotherhood that had once been unbreakable. Roman Reigns and Moxley went their separate ways, with Roman taking on the mantle of the tribal chief and dominating WWE, while Moxley became the renegade, the unpredictable force in AEW. The history between these two men is complex, filled with moments of brotherhood, betrayal, and differing paths to glory. But now, in this moment, everything seemed to come full circle. Roman Reigns, the undisputed champion of WWE, was calling the man who had walked away from it all. What could this mean? Why would Roman, at the peak of his power, reach out to Moxley of all people? The answer may lie in the crumbling state of Roman's empire. As the bloodline began to unravel, Roman's grip on WWE loosened. The Usos, once his most trusted allies, had turned against him. Solo Sikoa, the enforcer, was now the only one left standing by Roman's side, but even his loyalty had been tested in recent months. Roman had no one left to trust. No one left to confide in. And the person he chose to reach out to? The very man who had once been his closest brother. The fallout of the phone call. The phone call itself was brief. The words exchanged between Roman and Moxley are still unclear, but it's easy to imagine what might have been said. Roman, desperate and broken, probably sought some form of guidance, understanding, or perhaps even an apology. Moxley, ever the wild card, likely heard the desperation in Roman's voice, but would he even be willing to help the man who once ruled over WWE with an iron fist? After the call ended, Roman was left standing in the locker room, alone once more. The weight of the moment hung heavy in the air. The tribal chief, the ruler of WWE, was no longer the man he once was. His empire was slipping away, and the question on everyone's mind is, what now? Will Moxley return to WWE to help Roman Reigns in his hour of need? Or will he continue down his own path in AEW, watching as the once mighty Roman Reigns falls from grace? The possibilities are endless, but one thing is for sure, this moment changes everything. The bigger picture, is Roman Reigns' time at the top coming to an end? Roman Reigns has been the face of WWE for years. His tribal chief persona has defined a new era, one where he controlled not just the company but the entire narrative. But now, with his empire crumbling around him, the question remains, how much longer can Roman maintain his dominance? The fallout from this phone call could be the beginning of the end for Roman Reigns as we know him. He's shown vulnerability, something WWE fans have rarely seen from the tribal chief. And if there's one thing we know about wrestling, it's that nothing stays the same forever. The future of Roman Reigns is uncertain. Will he continue his reign of dominance, or will the cracks in his empire finally cause it to crumble completely? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, this moment will go down in history as one of the most shocking and emotional in WWE's modern era. The ripple effect, the impact of Roman's vulnerability. Now that we've witnessed Roman Reigns in a moment of deep vulnerability, it's time to examine the bigger picture. What does this mean not just for Roman but for the entire WWE Universe? The tribal chief's reign has been built on his indomitable strength, both physically and mentally. His dominance over WWE, especially with the bloodline behind him, was something that fans thought would last forever. But now, with cracks beginning to show, how will this affect the rest of the roster? First and foremost, let's talk about the bloodline. Roman's core group of allies, Jimmy and Jey Uso, Solo Sikoa, and even Paul Heyman, have all been integral parts of his reign. But with the Usos' betrayal in recent months and Solo Sikoa's growing independence, the foundation of the bloodline is shaky at best. If Roman is now reaching out to Jon Moxley for help, what does that say about his relationship with those closest to him? Will the Usos continue to defy Roman and follow their own paths? And what about Solo Sikoa? Is he still fully loyal to Roman, or could he, too, be tempted to break free from his older cousin's grip? This phone call to Moxley could set off a chain reaction within the bloodline, as Roman's inability to maintain control could open the door for new alliances, new rivalries, and, potentially, the rise of new factions. If Moxley does return to WWE, we could see the formation of a whole new dynamic, one where the power struggle within the bloodline is front and center, with Roman fighting to maintain his leadership while others plot against him. The role of Jon Moxley, returning to WWE. As much as this phone call was a shock, it's the implications of Jon Moxley's potential return to WWE that have everyone talking. Moxley has been thriving in AEW, becoming one of the top stars in the company. His time in WWE ended on a tumultuous note, with Moxley leaving the company in 2019, frustrated with the direction of his character and his role within the company. His departure was seen as a major blow to WWE, but it also marked the start of a new era for Moxley, who would go on to redefine himself as one of the most beloved and respected figures in pro wrestling. However, with the state of WWE in flux, especially with Roman Reigns' reign at a crossroads, could this be the moment for Moxley to return to the company where it all started? And if he does come back, what role would he play? Would he align himself with Roman once more to help save the bloodline, or would he exploit Roman's weakness and try to bring down his former brother from the inside? Let's not forget that Moxley has always been unpredictable. His character is wild, untamed, and free-spirited, traits that don't align with the structured, controlled persona of Roman Reigns. But could this phone call represent the beginning of a new chapter in their relationship? Could Moxley be the key to Roman's redemption, or his downfall? The possibilities are endless. If Moxley does make his return to WWE, it will be a game-changer, not just for Roman but for the entire landscape of the company. Whether he joins forces with Roman to rebuild the bloodline, or perhaps challenges him for the throne, one thing is certain, this phone call has set the stage for one of the most intense and unpredictable storylines in recent WWE history. Fans' reactions, the shockwave felt worldwide. Roman Reigns calling Jon Moxley isn't just a big deal within WWE, it's a moment that has shaken the entire wrestling world to its core. Fans from all over the globe are still processing what they witnessed. For years, Moxley's departure from WWE was seen as one of the most significant exits in recent wrestling history. And now, the idea that he might return, especially to help Roman Reigns, is a storyline that no one could have predicted. Social media exploded following the airing of this Raw segment. Hashtags like hashtag Roman Moxley, hashtag Tribal Chief Collapse, and hashtag Moxley Return were trending worldwide, with fans speculating on the implications of this moment. Some fans are excited at the prospect of seeing Roman and Moxley team up again, recalling the glory days of the Shield. Others, however, are skeptical, wondering if Roman's desperation might lead him down a path of betrayal and chaos. What's clear is that this phone call is one of the most talked about moments in wrestling right now. It has fans buzzing, wondering what the next step will be for Roman, Moxley, and the WWE Universe as a whole. The emotional weight of the moment, Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, reaching out for help, has caught everyone off guard. And it has opened the door for a slew of potential storylines and dramatic turns that could change the future of WWE forever. Roman's path forward, will he recover? So, what does this all mean for Roman Reigns? Will he bounce back from this moment of desperation, or is this the beginning of the end for his reign at the top? Roman has always been portrayed as a resilient figure, someone who can overcome any obstacle, no matter how insurmountable it may seem. But this phone call marks a turning point in his journey. Could this vulnerability be what fans needed to see in order to truly understand Roman's character? For the longest time, Roman has been the unstoppable force, the tribal chief who always knew what to do next. But now, we see a different side of him. Is this the beginning of his downfall, or will this moment serve as a catalyst for growth and redemption? Roman's future in WWE is uncertain. He spent the better part of the last 3 years at the top, with no one able to truly challenge him. But now, as his empire crumbles, it's unclear if he can hold on to his position of power. This phone call to Moxley may be his last-ditch effort to salvage what's left of his legacy. Or it could mark the end of an era. The world is watching, and it's hard to predict where Roman's story goes from here. Will he continue to lead the bloodline? Will Moxley's return signal the formation of a new faction, or will Roman's fall be swift and brutal? The possibilities ahead. What's next for WWE? As we close this chapter on Roman Reigns' shocking phone call to Jon Moxley, we must ask, what happens next? WWE has always been a company built on surprises, and this moment is no different. We've only scratched the surface of what could be one of the most dramatic and unpredictable storylines in years. Will Moxley return to WWE to confront Roman Reigns? Will he help rebuild the bloodline, or will he take Roman down from the inside? How will the other members of the bloodline react to this newfound vulnerability in their leader?